Then ChatGPT happened, which was this kind of like one-way door. Over the course of the following week, we ripped up our strategy and bet the company on AI, which meant changing everything.
If you've ever been frustrated by customer service, I don't think that's a far reach for any of us out there. You're not going to want to miss this next conversation with the CMO and Chief Product Officer of Intercom. So they have the #1 platform. And as the CPO of Intercom, he's going to tell us all about the agent, Finn AI, and it's really great stuff. But he's also giving us his hacks on how to get the best job in AI and how should you be thinking about how much in-person, real-time, and proximity calculates into having a successful AI startup company and our job. You are not going to want to miss this show on Mind the Machine.
Are you pioneering robotics in the home? If your work explores the utility and practical value of robotics and AI, we want you as a guest to share your insight. Our audience consists of industry leaders, lawyers, and doctors who seek nuanced understanding of AI disruption. You can partner with Mind the Machine to reach decision makers who value efficiency, strategic insight, and human-centered AI implementation. To be featured on the show, email mindthemachinepodcast@gmail.com.
From Google to other major tech companies, I am completely excited to have a show today with Paul Adams. He's the Chief Product Officer of Intercom. By the way, what a great name, Intercom. Loving that. And so you've done a lot of things with a lot of companies from big brand. I saw Coca-Cola. I saw Dyson, consumer electronics, product UX. I mean, you're kind of a renaissance guy. From a career standpoint as I'm going through all this. It's almost like, what have you not done? Right, might be the better question. But Paul, welcome to Mind the Machine. It's the show where we really try and articulate the vision of AI, but get practical, right down to brass tacks. How can people participate in a way that they feel good and create revenue? So, with that intro of the show and you, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and have a chat.
Well, let's start with this. So, Intercom, tell us a bit about where Intercom is, what you do, what problems you solve for the world, and maybe a little bit more color on the role that you play inside Intercom.
Yeah. So Intercom's about 13 years old. I'm here for almost all of that. I joined when we were a tiny startup. I worked, like you said, I worked at Facebook before, Google before that. So I wanted to like try and build a company, from close to scratch. So joined very early. For most of our history, we were a SaaS company building communication software. So we said our mission was to make internet business personal. So we basically invented business messaging back in 2011 for businesses and customers to talk to one another and communicate in much better ways, more personal ways. There was that, but the world back then was, do not reply emails. Your ticket number is such and such and such. Like just really, really terrible customer service, terrible customer experiences. So that was where we started. That was our first decade. And we had a machine learning team since kind of 2015, 2016. Then ChatGPT happened, which was this kind of like one-way door. Over the course of the following week, we ripped up our strategy and bet the company on AI, which meant changing everything. And so we actually internally called it Intercom 1 and Intercom 2. So now it's Intercom 2. And so we've fully transformed into an AI company. The transformation is still ongoing, but for the most part, we're unrecognizable. And these days we market and sell Finn, which is an AI agent for customer service.
So what do you think is the biggest problem solve if you're a startup or maybe you're a student, a small business? How should people think about Intercom and the problem that they solve like today?
Yeah. Customer service is broken. And like some people say like, hey, there's great customer service products out there. But the reality is it's broken. If you're just think of any customer service experience you've had, like your phone, your electricity bill, like insurance, you need to like, you've moved house and then like things like your package has gone missing or your flight's delayed or all these experiences for the most part still today are really terrible. You ring phone line or get a live chat going or send an email. And it's like really slow. customer context is missing, like all sorts of things. The default is still that it's pretty bad. And so, we have been here for a long time to try and solve that and just make it way better. But AI has completely changed what's possible. Completely changed what's possible. And like, what we find with lots of our customers is the customer service leaders get a lot of the kind of finger pointed at them, but like they're actually trying their best. They're trying hard. Customers think, oh, these companies don't care about me as a customer. That's actually not the case internally. Often, it's that just the kind of like economics of it don't work. Like there's too many customers, and to make service better, you would just kind of deploy human capital. It's kind of the only really way to do it. And it's too expensive. So these customer service teams are like drowning in volume, fighting this like never-ending ticker of new customer queries coming in. And we were like on this journey to try and solve that problem through messaging, because messaging is way faster than say a phone call, and it's way
What?
cheaper. But
Right.
and then AI just showed up, and AI actually, now the economics work because AI agents are really good at it. They're really, really good at customer service. And like out of the box, when ChatGPT showed up, and again, I'm thankful we had a really good machine learning team, so they could kind of tell us, like, hey, this is the moment. But out of the box, large language models really good at customer service. Like they can, chat with customers and understand their problem. They can find information, look up information, disambiguate when people are trying to like troubleshoot, like just really good at it. And they,
Yep.
unlike humans, they, work around the clock 24/7, don't take holidays, speak 45 languages, so
Yeah.
it was one of those moments where it was no matter what happens now, customer service is forever changed, like forever
Yeah.
transformed. It's kind of
Yeah.
we've gone through the one way door. So so we've been building Fin. We've like the majority of the company work on Fin now, which is
Okay.
our new AI agent product. And like I said earlier, it's like it's growing like crazy. It really works well, and yeah, a lot of fun to build.
I think customer service is largely dictated by the value of the knowledge base of the data sets that you give it, the facts, the FAQ, product descriptions, all that great stuff. You really could serve any industry, or is there a vertical that you're focused on?
We're broad at the moment. Now, like there's lots of kind of nuance to this. Like our history is startups. Like when we were, back in like when we were founded, it was like we were big in the startup community. And still with the startups program today, we care deeply about startups. The best companies of tomorrow don't exist yet, and are just being formed. And we want them to use Intercom. We want them to use Fin. So like we do a lot of work in the kind of startup community, give talks, and try and help people learn from the 1,000 mistakes we made. you know, um,
Yeah, no, that's really great, and I think, as we, chatted prior is, this is a large part of the community and the, subscribers for Mind the Machine podcast is folks that really are looking for curated answers that have come from folks that have lived it,
yeah,
and so I think that, this is certainly why we're stoked to have you, on the show and talking, about your experiences. What would you say, if just shifting gears just a little bit, if you had to restart this company today, versus Intercom 1, but, okay, it sounds like it actually kinda did this with Intercom 2, but what would you have changed anything, and what advice would you give to startups about, "Hey, it's today, we're mid through 2025. What should they be doing? Are we, in a space where maybe they've missed the opportunity? Are we on the downward cycle? How do you think about innovation today with AI for startup community?
yeah. So I have a whole bunch of strong opinions here. So let me try and run through them. Number one is like I think AI is underhyped.
Mm,
A lot of people think it's overhyped. I think it's underhyped. I think, like, my career is, like you said at the start, kind of, been all over the place, different companies, different sizes, big companies, small companies. I was kind of like, and luck plays a role in your career, you kind of sometimes find yourself in this crazy place. I started my career in the early internet, so I kind of like saw the beginnings of just huge societal change. I think AI is as big as the internet, if not bigger, which I could talk about in a sec. But then I kind of got lucky. I joined Google. I lived in London and joined Google in the team in London. The Google London team at the time was the mobile team, and this is kind of 2007, 2008. Google had a separate mobile team in London because mobile wasn't important. Everything that happened of substance was in Mountain View and the HQ. And then the iPhone showed up in the middle of
Yeah.
work. So I just had this like front seat to like disruption, to like uh everyone's kind of bias is kicking in, confirmation bias, everything. People like I worked on the first version of YouTube mobile, first version of
Mhm.
Gmail mobile. And I had like lots of people, and you sometimes you kind of believe this yourself. So many really influential people are saying these things, say things like people will not watch videos on people at YouTube, senior leaders at YouTube saying people will not watch videos on their phone. Like it's gray, it's
Yes.
low quality, it's grainy, like it's just not
Yeah, it would never
that,
happen.
like it's
Right.
ignorant. You're listening to a noisy video. No one will do that. And also, people will not do work on their phone, like Gmail, Sheets, Google Docs. Like no one's doing that stuff on their phone. And
Right.
yeah,
Wait, and this is the constraint of display, battery power, the size of this, screen. There was like so many, the form factor was so limiting. So you're right. Once the iPhone came out, it's just like, oh, our universe has kind of changed because it's haptic touch,
yeah.
and, so, but go ahead. Sorry.
But even then, like with mobile, I think mobile, by the way, like mobile and social kind of happen together as a technology
Yeah.
wave. And I think AI is way bigger than that wave. And so like so yeah, so I had this kind of front seat, to the mobile social wave. 'Cause then I went to Facebook. And Facebook was kind of at its peak, I guess, in terms of like being a hot company. And I'd moved over to San Francisco, so I was working over there, in the Facebook HQ. So it's kind of a fascinating time. I learned so much now I find myself so often here, like 10 years later, like telling more than 10 years, telling people, "Oh, seen this movie. I've seen it."
Well, and I love that you have such a deep legacy because it is a pattern recognition from the dot-com boom and bust to, the rise of cloud, smartphone. You're right. All of this stuff is underhyped, and I believe it just had a report from Morgan Stanley that basically said it was on average 23% undervalued, underhyped. Right. And so I'm like violent agreement with you that we are in underhyped. I think what we're seeing today, Gartner just came out with a report yesterday. 40% of the AI integrations are failing. And it's not so much because the technology is not there, it's the education's missing. And the change management is a big part of it. So it's like these human problems are tend to be representing the failure here, plus data quality, which I'm sure we could go on for days about,
Yeah,
you know, value creation from something that didn't have value.
yeah,
But, but yeah, like, I love that your legacy perspective. So when you think about that being we're not in a hype cycle, but people are grappling with it. How do you advise, the startups to think about, have they missed this opportunity or not? Like, what's their next step there?
yeah. There's kind of two things I say to people. Um, I say them kind of both together because they're kind of different things, but then in combination. So the first thing I tell people is that, when it comes to these technology waves, they all have the same, like history repeats itself. And these
Mhm.
technology waves are exactly the same. Every single time it's the same, going back to like, all the way back to, the Industrial Revolution, like same shape curve, like,
Mhm.
a breakthrough invention, like the combustion engine led to the car, your breakthrough invention, then slow initial adoption as people are like, is this real? Is this the next thing or not? If like the application isn't clear, the value isn't clear. But then the value becomes clear, people use it and see, oh, yeah, this thing actually is useful for me. Then you kind of mass market adoption and the curve ends and the innovation cycle ends. We're kind of there with mobile. I say to people like, everyone has a black rectangle, like mobile, the next Android, the next iPhone. Oh, it's this, we know what's coming next,
Right. They're so ubiquitous now.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the kind of innovation cycle is done there. It's going to be pins or glasses, whatever next. But and so you kind of plot this S curve and ask like, where are we on it with AI? And I think we are at the very, very beginning, the very beginning. And with AI in particular, like I use the car analogy a lot, and I talk to you about second and third order effects. So I say to people like, the breakthrough invention, the combustion engine led to the car. And you can look at amazing photos of like Manhattan 10 years apart where it's all horses and carriages and there's like one car. 10 years later, all cars, like one horse and carriage. The city itself is transformed. It's noisy, dirty, unrecognizable from 10 years. But actually, the car created suburbia and totally changed how people live. Uh, and no one in Manhattan in the 1930s could have imagined suburbia. And then suburbia created shopping malls and changed how we shop. And then it could create McDonald's and the drive-through and, changed how we eat, right? And so these like,
Made it feel sad. No, I'm joking.
I
Okay.
know, yeah, and it's funny because you can argue these things are good or bad or,
Right,
and people
right.
are skeptical too. Like, again, the cars, I think the cars are my favorite example because there was things like the anti-car movement, like horses
Mhm,
are better.
right.
Like horses can go over hills. A car can't go over a hill, but my horse here can go anywhere.
Okay.
So it's funny.
I love this broad view. Like, this is exactly what I think that perspective is like. It's okay. So yeah, everyone's then driving, but the network effects, I guess, or the ripple effects rather of, to changing how you eat from the invention of a device. So you think that that AI, we won't even understand how our world will change as a result of, efficient automation behind the scenes and in a generative sense. Like, you have any ideas about what that might look like? What would the far-reaching effects what would that be?
I think it's impossible to predict. Like I can kind of speculate in a second, but here's the kind of second way I talk to people about it. I'd say like, hey, second and third order effects. So when you think about AI, people think like, oh, using ChatGPT or Claude or using Cursor to code, and I'm like, that's the first order. Like the second order is like work is going to dramatically change. So that's going to be a big, and I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be as big as the internet. And I kind of say to people like the other thing that I say that people go like, oh, the penny is dropping is I think it's like basically 1999 and the internet is kind of here in the world, but not really here. And imagine someone goes back in time from 2025 or even like 2022 or whatever, and from 19 and go back to 1999 and shows someone TikTok, like their head would explode. What's the thing in your hand?
Right.
Like, how
It's
did you
like
make it so high resolution? Like,
right,
what's that person doing?
right.
Like,
What's a YouTube?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wow, that thing is like 30 million views. These people are used to like going to Walmart or Tesco or, buying stuff in real life. Um, so I think it's like impossible to know, but I do think like the patterns that I think about are work is really going to change. Work is
Mhm.
really going to change, and like I know people kind of worry about like jobs, and I actually think it's a really positive. I think it'd be a really positive thing for most people a lot, but there's lots of kind of detail to that. But I think work is going to be transformed. I think even by the end of
Yeah.
the decade, I think we'll look back to 2025 and think, oh wow, God, imagine, remember when we used to do that,
Yeah.
and I think our personal lives will change a lot as well. I think that people will have their own personal AI, and the personal AI will know everything about them, and depending on what systems and data and information they've access to, they'll be their doctor, their counselor, their advisor, their
Right.
friend. Like things. I think people having AI friends might actually be quite normal in 5 years. And today it sounds really weird, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think about kind of just really deeply reflecting on what you're thinking about is I feel like a lot of people have two voices in their head, whether that's the good angel or the devil or whatever, that negative voice. And then there's that positive voice. And sometimes guiding your life, being functional in your life means sharing these ideas with whether it's a counselor or spouse, whatever, a colleague. Hey, how should I think about this? Then just getting it out of your head, and then you have perspective. Sometimes you don't want to share these things, right? And so if you have an autonomous agent that basically really understands to the level of your screwed upness, and I'm just kidding, but they really understand that
Yeah.
I could absolutely see where And, speaking of like personal AI as a general category, there's a startup in San Diego actually just moved to San Francisco called Personal AI, which was building, your small language model equivalent. And from, when they started 2 years ago, I had been building out my own, basically, a digital equivalent. Lots of opportunity for improvement, I think, in this space. But I think you're 100% right. And the question I think what does that look like? Is that integrated? Is this, you think about, I don't know, things like Neuralink and embedded technology. Like, do you think it's that ingrained, or is it always going to be some kind of Internet of Thing device on your glasses? How do you think about this with hardware?
Yeah, it's so hard to know. I do think that I think the hardware, the device hardware is going to change. I think
Mm,
quite dramatically. Like a black rectangle is a very good form factor, and they've all the phones. Now you have folding phones and stuff, but like
mm.
the folding phone isn't taking over. No one's going to suddenly go like, oh, the folding phone's way better. I think this size is kind of like the convergence of like what's good. It's
Yeah.
big enough to watch a movie on, but it's small enough to put in your pocket, and so I think
Mhm.
that's done. And the folding phone, or that's just kind of like the kind of last embers of the innovation cycle, or whatever. So I do think that I think almost certainly people in the future, in 10 years maybe, it's so hard to pick the timelines, will look back at us like, looking at it, and go, what were we doing as a
Yes, totally
society?
archaic,
Like
right? Yeah.
society, like, and so I do think things like glasses, I'm kind of bullish on kind of glasses as a form factor. Sunglasses, like everyone wears sunglasses more or less, and um, so I guess we'll see. But I do think the hardware there is going to get good, and people will build new devices that we'll use. Now, glasses don't have a screen, so and the heads-up display isn't the same as you can't really watch a movie probably, but
Right.
it'll all get better. The newer.
Yeah, I think, the voice activation too is like, okay, we've gotten rid of the need for a display, which is the largest component for battery life, right? The largest tax on battery. I don't know that anyone's really fundamentally solved the battery issue in terms of battery life. I think Microsoft was working on something that was basically AI had come up with a novel chemistry, in 2 months. So to your point is like, 100% agree with how your worldview on this. I think I think about, these students or people coming out of school that don't have the business acumen or the legacy, witnessing a disruption that you do, and so maybe it's harder to have that instinct. And so that instinct to innovate, do you think, a personal AI type, development is where folks should where would you advise someone to study or to learn, to be able to participate in this, new economy you envision?
It's so fascinating. Like I never answered your question earlier. So my kind of title becomes Chief Product Officer, and I've run the product team since I joined, basically. And I'm a designer. I went to study design in university, so like I'm a designer turned kind of product person. I worked in around brand quite a bit, marketing. Anyway, it's
Mhm.
good to the end. I'm now running marketing at Intercom, most of marketing at least, not really running product as much, and
In
I'm building a new team. We're working in an entirely we blew up how we work. That was part of our AI transformation. We blew up how we work building software, and now we've just blown up how we do marketing, and we're rebuilding it kind of from the ground up. But it's a funny thing because I'm in a hiring and I'm looking for new people, and um, there's a kind of narrative out there that like, oh, junior roles are gone, young people are screwed. Like, if you're like finishing college or finishing school, like you've no experience, and AI is going to do all of that work. And I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. In reality, I'm like, I need to hire young people. I need to hire people that don't have baggage. Like, so many people, 99%, maybe more than 99% of the working population today, knowledge workers, 99% of knowledge workers today are struggling so hard to learn
Mm.
AI and let go of the past. Like my challenge is like, hey, wake up everyone. Like, you're in the bookstore, like selling books, and Amazon's around the corner. Like, you need to learn how to do the Amazon thing or we're screwed. And people are, no, 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 books are good. I'm good at books, you know? And so like I'm like, young people have no baggage, no history, no rules. They'll be AI native people, like ChatGPT and all this stuff's normal. It's the default way to do things. Why would you do it any other way? This is clearly better. It's efficient. You can like tap into like, amazing sources of creativity and, knowledge and so I actually think that young people coming out of college school are in a tremendous position to build new companies or help companies like us transition to the new world ASAP.
Mhm. I like that view because I believe that, a lot of the students that I interact with, they're pretty depressed. They're pretty, and they're getting a lot of their instruction, of course, from people that have seasoned, ideas about how the world works. And yes, there is that pattern recognition of understanding how disruption works, understanding business models, legacy, how did we get here? But to your point is like the skill is really understanding the mass utility. I heard someone recently, maybe it was Elon Musk yesterday, day before, had said an analogy. It's every PhD in the world's mind is literally connected. Everything that you ever wanted to know is literally at your fingertips. So do you really have to have legacy business acumen? What can you do to strengthen yourself to ask the right questions, to prompt right, to be able to use AI in a way that is less like a tricycle and more like a Ferrari, right? And I think this is what as I do AI integrations for medium-sized companies, is that's really getting them to be oriented to the actual power of these systems and to stop using it like Google. It's great. I think it's a great point. I think it's a really good point. I know our students are gonna be super happy, to hear your perspective. You're probably gonna be bombarded with resumes,
It's okay.
but,
I'll take it.
but, lot of good students in the California State University system was one of the first to roll out, ChatGPT as part of their curriculum tool set. That was, 6 months ago, I
Yeah.
believe, and so I think, educators are also, really challenged to use these tools just alongside the students. And so, it's very, very, very insightful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough if you're that age and like the news cycle and stuff is not great. But I think a lot of people are wrong, like, by the way, like, because a lot of people have a lot to lose too. If you're 30, early 30s, and you've got like, 8, 10 years under your belt, a lot of what you've learned is about to go out the window, and so it's threatening too, no matter where you are. Like, I'm like, you know, whatever, I don't know how many years into my career, 15, more than 15, 20 years. And yeah, 20 years. And I'm freaking out that I'm going to fall behind. Like, what about my job security? Like, I'll be okay only because I'm working at a company that embraced AI from the very beginning, and we just saw the moment and kind of met the moment and risked everything. Like, another thing is we risked everything. We made really risky decisions to change the company. But I'm like, I'm way behind. I don't use all these tools. I don't use them enough. Oh, like, I'm not that good at prompting. Other people are way better than me. I don't have time to get better. Oh, like, like, I'm freaking out. So like everyone's kind of freaking out.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Which is very, I think it's probably a very humble statement on your part, and makes you super likable, right? Because you really are in the thick of it. And, the legacy of what you've been, what you've seen, I think there's so much value in that. And then there's network, right? So, kind of transitioning just a little bit, and, it's less about, this question is really more about kind of industry and how people are showing up to be able to procure opportunities. So we know that, uh, students that are applying for jobs or startups that are trying to get traction, it really is using digital tools to affect that. So in applying for jobs, they have all these ATS bots, right?
Hmm.
You never really break through these ATS bots, right? Maybe one or two. But the reality is most people get hired because they know someone
Right.
or because the neighbor is this and that. And so I think that there's going to be a backlash to analog relational equity, right? And I've even seen this with Startup San Diego. Post COVID, people were so freaking out. Like, I've just got to see another human being. I'm kind of going crazy here. And the more digital things become, the more premium and luxury non digital experiences become for trust,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, trust was the issue. And thank goodness, like things like blockchain will help to that end and so forth. But I'd be curious of your thoughts of, do you recommend startups? Do they need to move location in order to seize opportunities? I mean, how do you feel about proximity and human relationship capital?
Yeah. I basically agree with what you said. So, here, like, I'll kind of give you like a concrete example. I kind of took over marketing. I kind of blew it up. I was like, there's an old way and a new way, and the old way is not going to work anymore. So there's a new way. What's the new way? Still like emerging. By the way, like, just as a side point, kind of to come back to something you said earlier, like the winners of AI are not at all determined. The winners in AI are undetermined. Like, it's way too
Mm,
early, and the best ways of working in this new era, totally unknown. No one knows. We're trying all sorts of new stuff. So like we're trying new stuff. So in marketing, one of the AI building an AI product is so different to building a SaaS product or a consumer app. Like, in many ways, I won't go through it all here all day. But like, at a foundational level, at a technology level, you're like, hey, I've got an idea, I can build the app. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, I can
but
build a SaaS app, I can build a consumer app. The technology, I know how to use it. AI isn't like that at all. You can build AI products that look like they work, but they don't work. They just don't work. Like, the content is bad and wrong, even though it looks great, or the data isn't quite right. And you can build things. And so a lot of companies build AI products that don't work, and then people become distrustful of that. And so what we've seen it in talking to customers is, um, show me it working, real, like for real, like demos. It's all demonstrations. Like, show me to build trust in you and your credibility. Show me it working. Like, show me the real thing really working. And then, like, show me you. I want to meet you. Who are you? What do you do? Are you credible? Are you authentic? Or are you just like, a faceless brand, a really well marketed brand? And so we've been investing a lot in like meetups. Like, we've an OpenAI, we've a meetup with OpenAI tonight. It's Finn and OpenAI in New York. It's crazy oversubscribed. There's like 200 spots. We've like over 800 people RSVP'd. So people are hungry, hungry.
mm, mm,
Linear, we did one at Linear. We've loads more lined up. So like events, like meetups is one, but then also just events. When we launch products now, we're doing it in person. The last product launch we did is in person. It was streamed too, and so and then dinners. Like, this is kind of a joke, but like, we've a dinner strategy. You know, like dinner strategy, right? It's like, well, how do people know Finn exists and know that it's good and the people behind it are credible? Like, LinkedIn resume isn't going to cut it. Like, have dinner, chat,
mhm.
meet up. So
Yeah.
I do think that's really important. Do people need to move? Maybe like, um, San Francisco's back clearly. And San Francisco is the hub of AI in the world.
Mhm.
And we're doing more in San Francisco. We're going to do an AI event in San Francisco in a few months. We're hitting not our product engineering headquarters is here in Dublin, in Ireland, and in London. We have a big
Mhm.
office in San Francisco, but it's not our product engineering hub. So
Mhm.
like, we just need to be there in the community, talking to people, meeting people. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, I look at things like even like Consumer Electronics Show, which, at one point, it looked like this show was not gonna be and I was highly involved when I was at Sony Global as a part of the leadership team and boards with the Consumer Electronics Show. And there was a point in time where I thought, trade shows are dead,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but they now have the highest participation rates. Last time I went to CES, they literally have taken over the entire city,
Wow.
where it just used to be the Las Vegas Convention Center. And so it's like, I love this idea of dinner strategy because people, you got to eat, you got to build trust, and then you got to see the product. And I love also too, what another fabulous insight from you is like, you can vibe code a demo, but unless you really go in there and say, okay, now I need that 30-day prompt for that workout agent that I've commissioned you to help me build for this diabetic person, whatever, all the conditions, you don't know. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally killed a client because we didn't really, you know, it is like the more digital, the more advanced we become, almost the more human we require to be. There's kind of another side question. Here's, what's his name? The guy Peterson. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his first name, but he just launched the Peterson Academy, and it's Harvard professor. He basically, his premise is that if you're going to be successful in AI, what you really need to know is critical thinking skills. Not so much having an MBA or not so much knowing how to vibe code or whatever, but really it's kind of like this fundamental uh ethical construct, so this is like another layer of what it means to be successful as a human trying to achieve this next level of compute enabled efficiency. There's a question in there somewhere, but we'll just love your comment on the state of education. Like, are there ways to educate people? Is that more kind of an off the shelf education, these master class type things? Or do you still believe Ivy League is the way to go? Because there's network effects there too. So, love your thoughts on that.
I mean, education is definitely something that I think is gonna change a lot. It's funny, like we have I'll get, here's a roundabout answer. I'll go back to the education thing. We had a policy of like 2 days in the office. And like originally it was like, hey, everyone's remote and COVID, whatever. And then it was like, no, back to the office. Why? Because like in-person communication is way easier. It's faster. Remote works, but like, you got to set yourself that way. But in person, whiteboards, just way faster, high bandwidth, strategic creativity, all that kind of stuff. So we were at 2 days in the office. Okay. And then we were like, so we just changed it to 3 days in the office. And when we're talking about like, hey, people should come back 3 days, and part of it is the productivity part, and part of it is like, you don't know, if you're, especially if you're younger, you don't know what it's like to be in the office 5 days a week, But a part of it is like, it's just good for people. Like, if you're young, you're just out of college, in your bedroom, working in your bedroom, like, how are you gonna meet people? How are you gonna like hang out and socialize and have fun and learn new things from different types of people? And so we're like, especially for younger people in their career, being in the office 3 days a week is great for them. They might not even know it yet, they might not realize, they might hate to commute. Um, but I think it's just good. And so I think a lot of the benefits of university, for example, is that, like, uh, I didn't like, I didn't do great at university. It's kind of a complex story, but like I did a degree in a master's. In the degree I didn't do I did fine. But like I didn't do much work, and I did do a lot of socializing, which is why I didn't get a great grade in the end. I probably didn't care enough either, to be honest. And
You look like you did fine. Look at you, bang on. Mom's proud.
that's the lesson. If your grades aren't great, don't worry.
Yeah.
I did a master's and I actually applied myself properly to it. But the benefit of me being in university was I made all my best friends, and like,
Hmm.
um, so I think a big role for universities is that's their unique proposition, funnily enough.
Hmm.
I don't think it's like we're better at educating than you. And Ireland is a great example of this, where like Trinity College is like, used to be the most prestigious university. It's a trifecta, from the British. There's Oxford, Cambridge, and Trinity. And no one really mentions Trinity. They just mention Oxford and Cambridge. But the three kind of belong together, and it's prestigious. Used to be, still is to some people. And then like other universities came up that are like, more modern, and, Trinity is a modern, Trinity is a good university, don't get me wrong. But then other colleges started to emerge as well. And actually many of our best people didn't go to Trinity or UCD or the best college or the most prestigious place. A lot of them went to third level education that was really practical. It was not less academic, way more practical, like doing things, doing internships, co-partnering with companies to like work on projects and things like that. So I think on the education side, um, AI will fast track a lot of the kind of academic side, I think. But there's a huge amount still in like just, internships and working for companies for a week or a project or guidance from people coming in from the outside. And then the social element is huge. I think it's really important.
Wow. So we're cutting back to that relational equity does play a role ultimately,
Yeah.
in the success formula for anyone thinking about entering AI. You still got to have that human connection. Okay, so Paul, we'll shift gears just a little bit. I want to talk about what you're seeing in terms of Intercom as an organization. What are the top companies that you or top trends that folks should be thinking about when they think about AI in just a bit more context? So, the statistic that I just read is that I think it's 60% of companies have no intention, have done nothing with affecting an AI strategy outside of maybe what's already baked in automation within their companies, right? But nothing strategic, nothing connected, maybe a little bit of shadow usage of AI, and then people are in the dark about this. What are really good starting points for companies that are trying to figure out how do I affect an AI strategy? And that could be from a tool perspective. Obviously, you got to have intercom, right? But what other things do you think about when you advise? If you were to advise a colleague, what would be a good starting point to affect an AI strategy for companies?
Yeah. Yeah. There's kind of two things that I think people need to internalize, and then a bunch of kind of just tactical things to do. The first thing to internalize is kind of touching what I said earlier. I think like people need a realization moment. Like I hear friends of mine and they say like, "Oh, AI is banned in our company." I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like, "Oh my God!"
What?
And like, why is it banned?
Is
Oh,
it
security.
nunnering?
Yeah, like there's so many companies have banned AI, and like data issues, security, your privacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, you know that like when PayPal showed up and stuff, no one would buy anything online. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, if you put your bank account online, everyone will rob all your money." It's like, yeah, you're that person today, right? You're that person.
Yeah.
Like there's real risk, don't get me wrong. You need to be judicious, but like, come on, think about it. It's 1999 again. And so that's one thing. You've got to internalize the thing. And then so people just like, you got to internalize it. And the second thing is, most people do, a lot of people do then is they go, "Okay, I got it. The penny's dropped. Okay, Paul, got your car analogy. Great, whatever. Okay. Um, yeah, so we're going to try it out over here." And I'm like, "You can't try it out over there. Companies are connected systems." Like the example I always use is Southwest Airlines. I say like, it's, kind of famous Michael Porter, amazing paper for people, younger people who haven't read it. What is Strategy by Michael Porter. Amazing. One of the best things ever written on strategy, in my opinion. Anyway, he uses Southwest Airlines as his example, and IKEA is another one. But in Southwest Airlines, they're like, "All right, we're going to do cheap fares. How do we do that? Well, the plane's got to turn around quick at the gate. They got to be in the sky. We make money in the sky. We make no money in the ground. So if it's cheap, they got to be flying more. So they got to turn around, 20-minute turnaround. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we got to clean the planes when they're in the sky, because we can't do 20-minute turnaround if the plane's dirty. Takes too long. All right, what else? Well, these little basket things, people shove all crap in them. Well, if we get rid of them, then there's no rubbish in them. So so there's a whole connected system, and businesses are connected systems. Like you can't like, product marketing, sales, everyone's got to be connected and pointing in the same direction, doing things that are like not only coherent with each other, but like compound in value. And AI is like that. You can't say like, hey, we're going to do a bit of AI in this part. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Then that part's going to really change. And then what if it changes in ways that are incoherent or inconsistent, or, so that's kind of what we've been doing inside Intercom. We totally changed product and engineering, and now we're totally changing marketing, and trying to just like, a lot of it's speed, honestly, just accelerate, um, accelerate. So like, I would say to people, like, the penny must drop. You got to think about it as a connected system. Don't just do some random AI project as a proof of concept over in some part of the company. You need to think about it holistically to properly give it a chance to work. Um, and then, none of these are small steps, to be honest. But the next thing is then, what we did at least was we just started from first principles. Like, we're big into first principles thinking here. So we just started from first principles and asked ourselves, hey, if you were to like build a product and engineering team today, what would it look like? How would it work? Because like, I have a funny slide. People laugh at it. I have a slide I show sometimes in talks, and it has like a list of all these things like agile, sprints, lean UX, right? And then that's the slide. It's a long list of like all this stuff. And then the next slide just says, we made this shit up. Like, we made it up. So, if we made it up, like, we can just delete it and make up new things, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
I love this.
Yeah. Like, so
Yeah.
people are like, I was at We Are Developers, a conference last week, giving a talk about how we've changed. Great conference. Back to the trade show thing. Great conference, 15,000 people there. Really, We Are Developers, awesome. Trade show was on fire. Like,
Mhm.
all the booths, everything, demos. It was just this new way of marketing. Loved it. Everyone's showing everyone the thing working. It was so cool. But I said that there, like, hey, look, we made all this up. So like, just make something up that's new and better and fit for the times. So
Well, I
like,
love this because I do think that most people look at legacy systems and they do forget that we actually made AI, right? Like, oh, is AI going to take over? Like it's some disparate, disconnected, something that we didn't create that therefore we can then now control, right? And to some effect, right? Or to some extent. So, is that kind of the way that you think about it? Is just like, you shouldn't be so resign yourself that you're somehow going to be run by it. Just co-create or out-create.
our experience, but with Finn, um, I haven't talked much about it today actually, but our experience with Finn is tremendously positive. Customer service. Like, another kind of funny thing, I think AI might be the most humanizing technology we've ever created. Like, here's another kind of funny thing. Like, most jobs suck. Like, they're terrible. Like, you're at your desk in a long line of desks, like, keyboard, put in the data into the system, check the thing. Oh, it doesn't work. Try again. And a lot of people like hate their jobs. And in customer service is like a repetitive job, same question over and over again. Oh, new same thing. Apply the policy, do the thing. And people hate it. They quit. It's like a stepping stone job to a lot of people. That's outsourced to low cost centers, all this stuff. And we're like, hang on a minute. Finn does all that. Finn's going to do all that stuff. Like, and now your new job is actually to manage Finn, and it's to like design how Finn works and like policies and guidelines. And Finn can add you like really complex queries. And so like, how does that work? And should it always follow the policy or should it not follow the policy sometimes? And so designing and orchestrating a system, how does prompting Finn, like, these are cool jobs. These are fun, new, exciting jobs. And um, and what we've seen is that customer service teams haven't reduced in size. Maybe they will, but actually, for the most part, these teams are so underwater. They're redeploying all the people that Finn is now doing the work of to other things they've never done and have been wanting to do for years, So for the most part, like, it's a really good news story. There's obviously like every every strength is a shadow, whatever. There's dark side to it, and people lose jobs sometimes. But for the most part, it's tremendously positive. So
I love that. And I think this is literally why I do this show is to really uncover all the negative headlines, clickbait headlines about the doom and gloom. No one ever clicks on news articles that say, hey, the opportunities are up, things are looking good, it's we've like this fear, death spiral of you've got to click this to find out how your life's going to change in a negative way. The reality is there are great jobs, strategic jobs. And I think as long as we are transparent about what that change of the workforce is going to look like, what is the future workflow? Because that's what you've said is like it's going to change for radiating what that looks like so people can like skill up or be oriented to that to then participate and show up at the trade show or show up at the hackathon, whatever they need to do. It's like they just need to be told that. They can't be told over and over again, you're obsolete. The singularity is coming. This is not good for mental health, especially young people that have been, maybe reared and raised in their bedrooms in a post-COVID society. They may have had a penalty from having to go through that experience, right? So they really need to be pulled out, as you say, pulled out of their bedrooms, get into the office, go to a dinner club. I
Yeah.
really love the dinner club idea. So, hey, Paul, I really enjoyed this conversation because I think you did the total where we're going technical, what's the vision, what are the skills, hard skills, soft skills, how you should show up socially, and then also some good insights on, your journey. So it's been a fantastic and insightful conversation, and I hope that we can continue one in the future. So thank you, Paul, Chief Product Officer, CMO, Intercom.
Make sure you're subscribed to Mind the Machine podcast, like the video, and leave a comment letting us know what you thought.